welcome back, or welcome to the first time maybe, to our deep stretch restorative crab class. Today we are going to be focusing a little bit more on the hamstrings. Hamstrings often, whenever they are tight, can even go so far up to give you back pain. For climbing purposes also, if your hamstrings are really tight, it may be really hard to get a high foot or to do a heel hook. So really good to always lengthen out the hamstrings, even if you don't climb. If you find yourself sitting even, we're actually contracting the hamstrings. So a really important muscle group to start stretching. We will get started though in a child's pose, just to settle ourselves in. So beginning knees wide, feet together to touch. Letting the belly, chest, forehead fall onto the mat. And while you're here, just starting to notice where you're holding some tension in the body. Maybe the shoulders are tight, see if you can drop them down a little bit more. And even if this is uncomfortable for you, you can always place some bolsters in between, almost like you're kind of cuddling down onto something. You can place bolsters under the hips if there's a lot of space between your hips and your heels. But just starting to notice letting the body grow heavier and heavier. And then once you kind of do a scan, just all the way from the top to the bottom, trying to let go of any tension, start to focus more onto the breath. And letting it come in and out through the nose. Thinking about starting the inhale very deep in the belly, working all the way up to the chest. And then we'll try to have nice long breaths here. See if you can find 3 of your own breaths before we move on. And once you're done with your last breath, we're going to transition into a tabletop. Hands coming underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Protecting the wrist, making the fingers nice and wide. Starting at a really strong tabletop first, so pressing away into the arms, bringing the belly button closer to the spine. Allow the shoulders to drop back, head growing forward. Still trying to find that breath even here, feeling a little bit of heat in the lower abs. And then we'll take some cat-cows to start to drop the belly, look up as you inhale. And exhale, cat, tucking away, bringing the chin under, tailbone tucks under, pressing away into the hands. Playing with that a few times. Inhale as you come up. And exhale back. So coming into your body a little bit more here. Trying to yoke the breath with the movement. And of course, if you feel like you need any other type of movement, maybe coming from side to side, maybe little half turns from side to side, just as long as you're flowing with the breath. And generally in yoga, inhales are going to bring you forward, and exhales back. So however you want to express here, we'll find 2 more rounds, whatever that means to you. Maybe last one. Before we make our way back into that neutral spine. Still pressing away with the hands, shoulders dropping back. Now we're going to come into a calf stretch. Sometimes you can feel it in the attachment sites behind the knee. So we're going to lengthen out the right leg behind you, curling the toes under. And just with a little extra pressure, try to bring the heel towards the mat, pressing away with the hands. Should start to feel that travel all the way up the calf, and again, a little bit maybe into the back of the knee. Still breathing here, even though we're not moving or flowing. Nice full breaths. And then we'll take some cat-cows to start to Last one, deep breath in. Exhale, start to soften the knee, bring it back down. Cat-cow just to rinse it out, dropping the belly, looking up, inhale. And exhale away. Back to that neutral spine. We'll do that on the other side. So left leg extends, curling the toes under. Still palms really wide apart, protecting the wrist. And then just a slight pressure, pressing back. So the heel is reaching down towards the mat. Still shoulders drawing away from the ears. Breath here. Last one, deep breath in. Exhale completely. And then starting to soften the knee, dropping the belly, looking up on your next inhale. And exhale back to cat. Back to your neutral spine. Now tuck both toes under. We're going to lift the hips into downward facing dog. And then once you're there, still being really soft, we're trying not to lock out the knee in down dog ever. There should always be just the microest of bends. And we can walk out the dog to start, still kind of playing around with those attachment site areas. And when I say that, I mean the space behind the knee again, and the other attachment site is going to be right under your gluteal fold, right under your bum fold. Going all the way up the back of the leg. Those are your hamstrings. And then we'll make our way into a little bit of a stagnant down dog, static rather, never stagnant because we're breathing through it. So softness in the knees, pressing away with the hands, shoulders bringing into the back. And just breathing here. Thinking about rotating the hips so you're pressing them towards the back wall. And if your hamstrings are very tight, you can bend the knees a whole lot here. You'll still be feeling it, still be doing the pose. And now we're going to start to walk the feet towards the hands, taking little micro steps. Maybe playing around again with how that feels in the back of the hamstrings. Bending the knees as you walk forward, but maybe you can plant the feet down as you start to walk. Making our way all the way to the hands. And if you can only come halfway, you can always bring the hands back, taking more walks forward. Toe heel the feet nice and wide apart once you reach the top though. And we'll tuck the hands into the nooks of the elbows, letting the wrists take a break. Dropping the head down, really important to tuck the chin here. And still a little bit of softness in the knees. Always a great time to sway from side to side. Still, again, getting into those attachments as we do though, feeling it right under the gluteal fold. And swaying is really important too because we have 3 attachment sites of the hamstrings. One in the middle, one on the inside, and one on the outside. So as you are swaying around, you can kind of start to feel maybe a little bit more of the outside as you come over, coming back into center, getting a little bit on the inside, on the other side. Still breathing though. And then we'll start to drop the hands. We're going to do a twist. Bending into the right knee a lot, placing the right hand down about a hand's width distance in front of the right foot, and always use a block here. Peeling the left arm up, a little twist to the left side. Nice inhales. Exhaling, might be able to twist a little bit more. And 2 more times, little micro movements here. Inhale for length, and exhale to twist. 1 more. Deep breath in. Exhale, come back down. Make another little sway from side to side. And then we'll do that on the other side. So placing the left hand down, bending into the left knee, right arm reaches up. Thinking about stacking the shoulders too, so not just letting the top hand kind of hang out. Still a lot of energy, even though this is a more restorative class. We're still doing yoga. Nice breaths. Last full breath, inhaling. Exhale completely. Another deep breath. Exhale to come back down, maybe another little sway. And then toe heeling the feet completely together to touch. We're going to inhale to come up to a halfway lift. So always good to start with the hands on the shins, maybe even higher up onto the quads. But maybe if the shins are there for you, trying to bring the shoulder blades together behind you. Nice long spine, so no rounding in the back, shoulders aren't creeping forward. Trying to expand the collarbone, almost like you're flipping the heart down towards the mat. Breaths here. Take another inhale, so you can curl your head a little bit further out from the spine. And exhale, forward fold, dropping the head, tucking the chin under, letting go of the hands. From here, we're going to roll up one vertebra at a time. Nice, slow zombie roll, bending into the knees, tucking the tailbone under, slowly bringing yourself up, taking a few breaths, imagining each vertebrae stacking right on top. You're halfway up, another good reminder to let go of the head. Tucking the tailbone under still. And then once you reach the top, shoulders come up to the ears slightly, and then down the back for mountain pose. Flipping palms towards the front, finding your breath again. Thinking more about expanding further out than trying to fill up and bringing your shoulders up. Starting nice and low. Keep taking up space, filling up the lungs really deep. On your next inhale, looking up, reaching up, gather all that good energy up. Touch hands overhead, big breath in. And exhale, forward fold. Trying to hinge at the hips if you can here. Before coming back down, dropping the head. And we'll go over that again. So inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up, reach up. Exhale, hands to the heart. So this is what I'm going to be talking about your gluteal fold a lot, because that's a really major important attachment site. There's only 2 different sites. But this one is where people have a lot of tightness, and whenever the hamstrings are tight, it starts to pull your hips down, which collapses the abs, which gets us into the position that we usually are sitting at or standing at for most of our day. So we want to be avoiding that, and that does start a lot in the hamstrings too. So as you're flying down, trying to keep that flat spine, like I was saying, comes a lot also from that attachment site. So it should be more of a hinging at the hips here, rather than just kind of crumpling down and coming forward. So keeping all that in mind, we'll flow through one more time, starting in our mountain pose. Inhale to look up, reach up. Exhale to hinge at the hips, coming forward, heart comes forward, and even if you can't come all the way down, flat spine, maybe you stay halfway, and then you can bend the knees and soften down. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up, reach, trying to bring the arms as wide as you can, coming up. Exhale, hands and heart. One more time, then move on. Inhale, look up, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, this time planting the palms. Step back to a high push-up. We'll pause here. Still bringing the lower belly into the spine. You can always drop the knees down. This will be one of our only push-ups we do today. But wherever you are, still a nice, powerful breath in. Exhale to stay. Inhale, start to shift forward onto the tops of your feet or leaning the chest forward. Exhale, elbows close to your sides, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and we'll pause here. So maybe dropping the knees down for a cobra. If this is too intense, you can also soften the elbows. 2 more breaths, just lifting the heart, slight lift of the gaze. 1 more deep breath in. And exhale, downward facing dog. Flipping the toes back under, pressing back. 3 breaths. Last one, deep breath in. Side out. Inhale to lift the heels. Exhale, bend the knees a lot. Start to look forward and walk or step feet to hands. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look up, reach. Exhale, hands to the heart. Pausing here, trying not to fidget or adjust. Softness into the knees, shoulders drop back. Connecting with the heart. Recentering with your breath. One more deep breath in. Exhale, hands onto hips. Nice wide elbows. Start to lift the heart slightly here, still breathing. Next, inhale, plant the left foot down, bend the right knee up. Curling toes in towards the knee. We'll try to take a nice static, wide stretch back. Still breathing. Once you're there, you can walk the feet a little bit wider apart, settling into your lunge, even letting the back heel drop down. We did that nice little calf stretch to feel just a little bit more weight. Hands around the hips, making sure that the hips are forward. Pelvis is neutral. Inhale to reach the arms up overhead. Exhale, warrior 2. Back heel stays flat, arms go out wide. Pausing here, we're going to be peeling open on the big toe side of the back foot, so the arch is lifted, really planting down on that pinky toe side. Bending into the front knee, but letting that also come open to the pinky toe side. So letting the legs feel wider, letting the arms draw wider, but shoulders are still slightly into their sockets. So not so much that you feel like you're projecting your arms forward, reaching them more out, still a little bit of engagement from your shoulder blades behind you. A lot of pushing and pulling, a lot of things to think about, but then we don't have to think about how much this leg is working. So we're still breathing here. I'm going to start to flip this front palm, reaching forward. Exhale, left arm comes up overhead, getting a side stretch. Nothing changes in the lower body at first, focusing more on lengthening out from the side. And then slowly we're going to start to straighten the leg, pulling up from the quad to lengthen out, and then still reaching towards the back wall. Take another inhale, maybe reach a little bit more. And exhale, start to bring the arms parallel to the mat, the legs are still straight, and we're going to tip over into Trikonasana. So So starting to reach the left arm forward a lot, and then setting it down just onto the shin, right below the knee, right arm reaches up. So again, starting to feel it a little bit more into the hamstring. This is more of an active stretch, so we'll do that before we get into more of the passive stretches. So still breathing here, letting the body get warm. So when we do all those gooey stretches, you're already ready for it. One more deep breath. Exhale, start to bend back into the front knee, coming back to warrior two. Hands onto the hips, pivoting the hips to face the front wall. And we're going to step the back foot up about halfway for pyramid pose. So still a little bit more of an intense pose, but it's very active. Bringing the hands onto the hips, centering them out again. Inhale, start to lead with the heart. And then exhale, folding forward. So still checking in, are the hips in line? Little micro adjustments here. Ideally, you're pulling the left hip back slightly. And maybe your body pauses about parallel to the mat. You should already start to feel that up. Regardless how flexible you are, you should start to feel that light up the back of the hamstring. So we can always stay here, bringing the hands onto the thigh. Having blocks is great. But if you do have the additional flexibility, maybe you can bring the chest the rest of the way down onto the mat. Placing hands on either side here is great. You can always flip the palms to the back if you want a little more. And also trying to drop the head. Ideally, the nose is to the shin. So if you are working for that too, you can start to do a little bit of swaying back and forth, bending into the front knee, reaching it back. And maybe as you start to open up a little bit more, find yourself coming closer and closer to the shin. Something to work on though. Wherever you are, 3 more of your own breaths, really strong. And last one, really full. Exhale completely. Inhale, start to bring the hands back to the hips, almost find like a halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms down, bending into the front knee. Forward fold, back foot comes up to meet the front. Finding a forward fold of your choice, I'm going to do gorilla's pose. Walking the feet wider apart. Placing the hands onto the bottom of the feet, palm side up. Trying to bring the toes all the way up to the wrist creases. Nice little bend. I had a yoga teacher tell me once, you've never seen a gorilla with straight legs. So now's not the time to do it either. So we'll drop the head. And again, always lovely to sway back and forth. Feeling a little bit more weight into the palms too. Giving your wrists a little massage. And then we'll start to let go of the hands. Toe heel the feet back together. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, look up, reach. And exhale, hands to heart. Hands come back onto the hips, letting the heart again open, elbows come wide. Plant the right foot down this time. Inhale, left leg lifts. Finding the balance here first, making sure that the hips aren't compensating to keep the leg lifted. And then we'll take an inhale to prepare. Exhale, nice static stretch back. Walking the feet a little bit wider. Finding your crescent lunge, micro adjustments to the hips, but then heart just coming forward, breathing into this space. The crescent part usually comes from the slight back bend that happens. So if this is too much on your back, you can start to lean the chest forward. It does put a little bit more pressure on the quadricep. So instead of trying to think, oh, for a back bend, you're trying to tighten the back to bring the heart forward. Instead, think of just a little bit of a lightness, and the gaze always helps too. If you're looking down, then your body's going to be going down. But if you're trying to look up, and again, you don't have to be looking up overhead, maybe starting to walk the gaze up to where the wall kind of meets the ceiling. And always back to the breath. Next inhale, reaching the arms up overhead, complete the pose. Exhale, warrior two, back heel spins flat. The right foot, I always bring mine a little bit more in center, because ideally you want the front heel to match up with the back arch. And whenever you start in a wider lunge, it doesn't just always naturally happen. So little adjustments. It's great too for ankle mobility. You don't always just have to end up and perfectly be there. So learn how to kind of move your foot around, get comfortable with that using your toes. That way you're able to come into the pose and then settle into it. Arms come out wide, shoulders drop down. Again, kind of reaching with the hands, but still a little bit of stability into the shoulder joints. Next, inhale, start to flip the front palm, reaching forward. Exhale, throw the right arm up. Lower body does not change. Breathing into the right rib cage. Next, inhale, start to straighten the front leg. Continue to reach towards the back wall, full side body. And then tipping over into Trikonasana, or triangle on this side, reaching the right arm as far forward as you can, and then just setting it down onto the cap. Left arm reaches up. A lot of engagement in the top hand. Lots of breath. Another deep breath in. Exhale to bend into the front knee, coming back, warrior two. Hands come out to the hips, lifting up the back heel, maybe taking a nice step forward. Lining up either the heels in line, or for pyramid, sometimes just having all 10 toes framing forward. So whatever feels best for you. I like to match up my heels personally. Hands onto hips though, so that the hips are framed forward. Inhale to start with the heart, lifting up. And exhale as you fold. Checking in, that right hip is going to want to come forward, start to pull it back. And then always good to pause, kind of where your limitations are before you start to roll down. And then deciding what you want to do on this side. And then maybe if you want to do that slight flossing, coming forward, coming back. Seeing if you can kind of bring your face a little bit closer to your shin, but it takes time, so much time. But we got a lot of time. We can do yoga forever. So no rush. And if you are compressed down at all, you still want to be having super full breaths here because we are really condensed. But at any time, you want to be having super full breaths. Still breathing. One more inhale here. Exhale, coming back to like a halfway lift. Another inhale here. And exhale to your forward fold. Back foot comes up to meet the front. Toe heel your feet nice and wide. And this time we'll find a yogi toe grab. So using your first two fingers, reaching them from the inside, that space between the big toe and the second toe, holding on to them, bending at the elbows to pull yourself down. Starting to let go of the hands. I'm going to toe heel the feet back together to touch. And then just bringing ourselves down to a seat. And start with the legs forward in a stack pose, walking the hips back. So again, this is difficult whenever you have a really tight attachment site, because it's going to be hard to pull yourself back. But whenever that is tight, again, it brings us into the C-curve position. So really working on it, trying to walk the hips back, take out anything extra out of the way too, really helps. And then whenever you're in a straight line, you can always check by bringing your hands onto the outside, pressing down, letting the spine lengthen with the arms. And we'll inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Hands grabbing onto the outsides of the feet if you can reach them, or you can always just place them down wherever they go. But similar to the other forward folds, we're not just trying to bring the head and the shoulders down first, thinking more about leading with the heart. So if you can grab onto the feet, using a little bit of leverage there to start to pull yourself forward. And still really full breaths here. We're not moving. We made it down to the floor. We feel like we can relax a bit, which we can, but we're not doing static stretching here. We're doing very focused, intentional stretching. So we're not just hanging out. So letting the body open up. Slight movements too are always fine, as long as you're breathing. It's all I'm here to tell you to do. It's just how to breathe whenever you feel a little weird, a little uncomfortable. Now, 3 more really full breaths. After your last one, starting to come back up. You can reach the arms up overhead to lengthen back out the spine. And then setting the hands down. Now we're going to find a seated tree. So bringing the right foot out slightly to the right side, left knee starts to bend in. Framing the chest towards the right foot, curling the toes in to meet you two. We'll inhale, reach the arms up. And exhale, fold. So again, if your pose doesn't look like this, that's so much more than okay. You can always be coming up as long as you're leading with the heart. You can stay up a little bit higher too. This is all going to feel better than hanging down and over like this. Even though this might feel more relaxed, in the long run, you will definitely thank me if you're leading more with the heart and not just rounding out the spine. Two more of your own breaths wherever you are. After the last breath, coming back up. Place the hands on either sides of the hips and just lengthening out the arms again. Lengthen out the spine. We've been doing a lot of folding forward, so we should open up a little bit. Placing the left hand about a hand's width distance behind you. You're going to press down to lift up into a gate pose. Nice and gentle though, especially after all those forward folds. One more inhale here, and exhale to set the hips back down. Now we'll do that to the other side. Left leg lengthens, right foot comes in. Frame the chest towards the left foot. Left foot also wants to bring itself towards you. We'll inhale to reach the arms up, and exhale, fold. Checking in, are you breathing? Does the breath feel shallow? Can you lengthen it out? Can you make it feel softer? If it feels really pressured, maybe you come off of it. Breath is always going to be more important than the poses here. Hate to break it to everyone. It's not about how it looks on Instagram. 3 more breaths. After the last breath, start to come back up. Place the hands on either sides of the hips. Again, lengthen out the spine first. And then we'll come into the heart opener. Right hand comes behind, pressing down to lift up. One more deep breath. And exhale, settling it back down. And bringing the feet forward, gonna place them down, bending into the knees. And nice slow lowering, or just bringing yourself onto the mat. Bringing the knees into the chest, a little pelvic recentering again. And then we'll bring both legs up into a waterfall, curling the toes in. You can place your hands just underneath the sacrum, just letting all that energy kind of drain back down, getting the blood circulation going back to your center. And then bending into the knees, we'll place the feet down, then start to lift the hips up to a bridge. You can walk the arms a little bit longer. And here's a great time to really focus on your breathing. Unfortunately, in the Western society, we don't think enough about breathing. Everyone says we breathe wrong. It's okay though, because there's plenty of time to learn. But while you're in this position, you can start to bring your gaze along your midline, so along your center. And really see, can you get the breath to start all the way low, right between the hip joints. So as it starts low, starts to walk all the way up the belly, finally to the chest, and then walks all the way back down. So focusing, looking along your own center. Two more breaths. Last one. After that, tucking the tailbone under, bringing the spine back onto the mat. And then windshield wipering the knees a little bit from side to side. We won't let the hips feel neglected here, so we'll come into a happy baby as you're ready. Bending the knees, feet bring it up towards the ceiling. Bringing the arms from the inside to grab onto the outsides of the feet. And if you can't quite reach your feet here, again, shins are always a great place, especially if your arms are on the inside. You should still be able to have a pretty decent grip. But allowing the hips to open, so sending breath to any tightness. Tucking the chin under too, so that the breath can be a little bit louder. And then from here, if you have the space, wonderful to rock from side to side. Maybe you start to lengthen the legs out too, regardless of where you're holding onto them, making it a really happy baby, massaging out your back, massaging out your kidneys. And then once you're done playing around with that, we're going to bring the knees into the chest. Starting to find a little bit of momentum, rocking back and forth, rolling out the spine. And then we're going to bring ourselves all the way back to a downward facing dog. So however you want to do it, as fancy as you want to make it, or as simple. It's your practice. I'm just here talking to myself so we can all do our own practice. It's great.
And once we're back in down dog, we're going to inhale, find a three-legged dog. If you want, you can open up the hip, maybe bend the knee, rolling out the ankle one way or the other. But as you're ready, inhale to lengthen again, and exhale to step through. Finding a low lunge, bringing the hands onto either side of the foot, making sure that your feet are long enough apart so that the ankle is before the knee or in line with the knee, and making sure that your feet are again nice and wide so you feel supported. And we'll start nice and high, maybe finding a little bit of rock again. And then we'll start to bring the back knee down. Some rocking side to side, again front and back, getting into all those spots. An option to leave the back toes tucked or untucked, however you feel the most stable. And then we'll inhale, come up onto tall fingertips, lifting the heart. And exhale, fold back. Curling toes in, bowing the head. We've already been here a million different times already. But let's see if we can floss it out a little bit more. Inhale to come forward. And exhale back. A few more times, just getting lost in the breath and the movement. Maybe lingering in one space or the other if you find any tightness. Sending all the breath there. If you have a split practice or you're going towards a split practice, now's the time to kind of bring the feet a little bit wider apart. For me, my splits have always come and gone. Only whenever I want to do it a lot will it come, and it doesn't matter either way. I'm just glad that I can move at all. So again, only if you're aiming for splits, which is not necessary, but only if you want to do it. Maybe start to come down. You can always place a block here, a little bolster. But we still want to be having some slight moving. A lot of breathing. And then we'll start to come off of it. So coming back, bending into the knees. Coming back to where we started in the low lunge. Tucking the back toes under. Pressing back again to a three-legged dog. Letting the right leg lengthen. And then setting it back down. Do that on the other side. Left leg lifts. Bending the knee, expressing, rolling out the ankle. Inhale again to lengthen. Exhale, step through. Staying up nice and high to start. Finding that little bit of movement. And then as you bring the back knee down, a little bit more movement side to side. Inhale then to lift the heart. And exhale, hamstring stretch. Flowing as you're ready. Inhales again to bring you up. And exhales to bring you back. And again, if it's part of your practice, you can start to come into splits. If you're still working towards it, you can always be lingering, again, one or the other. You can even take a lizard pose by bringing hands onto the inside of the left foot. You can always do that to the other side too. But wherever you are, coming down, staying up, as long as you're breathing and moving. then starting to come out, bending back. Another couple little flosses. We're tucking under the back toes and lifting the front leg. And then setting it down, pedaling out. We're now going to come into Pigeon Pose, so getting again into the hips. If you want to find length, inhale to reach the right leg up. And exhale, bending at the knee, bringing the right knee forward onto the outside of the right wrist. Left leg goes long behind you. If you have a lot of space under the right hip, another great place to put a bolster or a block. Checking in with the back leg, making sure the ankle's in line. Inhale to find length in the heart, and exhale, fold forward. Still being mindful of the breath. Might be coming down, might not be as fiery as it was, of course, during the sun salutations. But noticing if the hips are able to soften a little bit more as you're here. Maybe the shoulders come down more. Three more breaths wherever you are. On your last breath, coming back up, long arms. Tucking the back toes under, lengthening out the right leg. And setting it back down. We'll do that on the other side. Inhale as you lift. And bend the knee, bring it forward. Right leg goes long. Checking in behind you. Inhale for length. Exhale, fold. Halfway through, notice where you can soften, notice if the breath's gone away, bringing it back into your mind. And 3 more breaths. one, coming back up. Tuck the back toes under, find more length in the left leg. Before setting it back down, walking the feet to the hands, bringing legs out long in front of you. And again, we'll slowly lower all the way back down. Knees come into chest. Holding on to the right leg this time, let the left leg go long. Pulling it in towards you, you can bring the left hand around to hold on as well. Wind remover pose. So really finding enough tightness so you feel just a slight pinch on that top side of your right hip. And then draw the right leg across body for supine twist. Bringing the gaze opposite direction that the knee's going. One more deep breath. Exhale, come back into center, both knees into chest. And then doing that on the other side. Right leg lengthens. Holding on to the top of the left knee, pulling it in towards you. Slight pinch. And drawing this knee across body, supine twist on this side. Another deep breath. Exhale, come back into center. Both knees into chest again. This time bring your forehead up to meet the knees. Squeezing everything in towards your center, taking the deepest breath in yet. And release. Into Shavasana. Letting the feet fall open, the fingers curl in. Walk the shoulders down the back. Let the collarbone be really broad. And just let the body take in all that goodness, all that work that you've done. And notice those little feelings of lightness or of movement. Let's start to let the breath get a little bit smaller and a little bit more focused onto that space between your eyebrows. Drawing the mind a little bit more inward. Take one more breath in together and release. breath. Making your way back, feeling out the rest of your body, finding the fingers and the toes. And rock the head maybe a little bit from side to side. Finding slightly bigger movements, and making your way into a fetal position, rolling on whichever side you prefer. And come back to an easy seat. Checking in with those hamstring attachments, bringing that gluteal fold out, stretching it back, finding more connection down to the mat. Hands onto the knees, shoulders soft. And bringing the hands into heart center. We are going to end the class with the sound of one Om. If you ever feel uncomfortable chanting or oming, you can always hum. It is just a good way after not talking for an hour to kind of bring all that energy and all that vibration back into your throat. So we'll take a deep breath in. Another inhale and sigh, bringing the thumb knuckles up to the third eye, the space between the eyebrows. The light within me honors and respects and sees that same light in each and every one of you. Together we can say, Namaste. And I thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video a little bit more focused on just one particular muscle group. If you did have any questions about further split practice, or if you wanted to do more for it, please never hesitate to reach out. But just keep in mind though, it's not the pose that should be the focus on everything. So splits are lovely, but they're not necessary. And sometimes for poses like that, it kind of happens where whenever you're not trying at all is whenever the pose finally reaches you. So kind of keeping that in mind, get back a little bit more into the yogic practice. But I hope you guys have a great and restful weekend, a happy holiday next week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.